Okay, Simon. The reason that I chose you to be the part of my tell someone of my National Archivist project is because you like history like I do, and I thought you would be more interested than a lot of people that I know, because not everybody thinks ancient old things are fascinating, and I know that you do. So I chose you, and basically I'm just going to tell you about the project real quick. It's not going to take much time. Is that cool? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the National Archives are where all of this stuff is stored, like letters from presidents, and there's even literature like poetry, and there's one thing I got to look at, which was ship manifests. So basically captains of ships would write down, on Star Trek when it's like captain's log starting. Yes. Yeah, okay, so it would be like that, except on a real ship in the past, and these were from like the 1800s and stuff. Unfortunately, those had already been transcribed, so they had already had someone type up what it said in there. So I had to keep digging, and that's what this was kind of like. It was kind of like a treasure hunt, or like time travel a little bit, because everything that I would look at from the past told me a little bit about that someone who wrote it, or about something that happened in the past. So what I ended up doing may seem a little boring, okay, but hear me out. So these are letters from the Secretary of the Treasury in September of 1856. So that's, I think I figured it out, it was like 166 years ago or something. And I had to look up because I could not read his name. Look at his name written there. Can you read that?
Not really.
Yeah, I got maybe there's a J and maybe a G.
A J.
But I had to look up who was the Secretary of Treasury in 1856. And then I found him. And I was able to find out that he was a lawyer and a plantation owner, and that he also was the president of like 2 railroads or something, and he was the Secretary of the Treasury. So what he did is he told people how they could spend government money, basically. So these letters that I found are just basically saying like this one, and I want to show you what I would do. So you can see here I have, I have the actual letter, and then in between the lines, I have where I wrote what it said. So on my screen, you can actually zoom in and look at each letter and each word. So I would write down this stuff that instead of saying like here, it says of, and I wrote of above it. And there are places that I could not read, and I would put illegible, which means I couldn't read it. But basically, this gets typed up into the National Archives, and people can use it to search for things. And maybe they're looking into James Guthrie, and they need to find out some of the things that he was a part of. And this also has to do with building projects. Like there's this Galveston custom house that was all throughout the Civil War. It had roles in the Civil War, and this New Orleans Marine Hospital is a part of history. So even though it may not seem like the most interesting project, some of the most interesting stuff has already been transcribed. So I still feel like it was really neat. First of all, this is something that even like you could do when you get a little older. And let me ask you something real quick. Do you think that someone would be able to do something like this without knowing cursive?
Yes.
How?
Because basically, so you can like picture like your own fancy way of making a letter and compare it by each letter. And once the one that looks the most like it, it's most likely to be.
Okay, so you're saying that even if you didn't know cursive, that you could look at the letters really closely and get as close as you could.
Yes.
And that's some of what I had to do. Even though I know cursive, I had to look at each letter and go, okay, this looks a little different than it does now. Plus it was faded and stuff. But I will say this. If you did not know cursive, this would be hell. Okay? Like, it took me a long time anyway. But I was thinking about that when I was transcribing it. Like, our kids need to know cursive, because who's going to read these things if we don't know? And y'all are learning it, right? At school? Ish. Okay. Well, we will learn it even better, because we want you to be able to look at old documents and read them, right? And the most important thing about this to me is that you have a history book or social study book or something, right?
Yes.
Okay. That was written by people just writing what they know about history, right?
Yes.
But these are documents. This is actual history written down, and that's what the archives are. It's not somebody saying something about someone else. It's people writing about their own history. And I think that this project has been an amazing opportunity to get to learn a lot more, and I definitely think I'll be doing more of this in the future.